Today we're going to look at what happens when the complex numbers are quotients, when there's division involved. Because I represents the square root of -1, if there's an I on the bottom, there's a square root on the bottom, and we can't have that. So what do we do when there is a square root on the bottom? We are going to multiply the top and the bottom by the conjugate, just like we did when we had like 2 plus the square root of whatever in previous sections. So the conjugate of positive 4i would be negative 4i. And if we multiply the bottom by negative 4i, we also need to multiply the top by negative 4i. Think of this as like 0 plus 4i, so we're multiplying by 0 minus 4i. The conjugate is the same as the bottom, but the opposite symbol. On the top, it's distribution. Negative 4i times 3 is negative 12i. Negative 4i times I would be negative 4i squared. On the bottom, 4i times negative 4i, the 4 times the negative 4 is negative 16, and the I times the I is I squared. Remember, the other thing that you need to remember is I squared equals -1. These are the two facts about I that I want you to completely memorize. So everywhere that you see I squared, that's actually a -1. Negative 4 times -1, that would make this term actually a positive 4. Negative 16 times -1, that would actually make this a positive 16. So to write this in standard form, we want the real part first, and then the minus 12i, and on the bottom we want 16. But this isn't quite standard form. Standard form, they really want the real part plus, or in some cases minus, the imaginary part. So we're going to split this up into 4/16 minus 12/16 I. Okay, you're just splitting this into two pieces using that denominator of 16 both times. 4/16 minus 12/16, and that 12/16 has the I with it. Once it looks like this, nice and split up, looking more like standard form with a number, a sign, and then the imaginary part, now we need to simplify those fractions. So 4/16, and remember, you can use your calculator, either the ABC button if you're using a scientific calculator, or if you're using the graphing calculator, do 4 divided by 16, math button, enter, enter, and that will change it to a simplified fraction. 4/16 is 1/4. 12/16 is 3/4. Our final answer, quit moving, is 1/4 minus 3/4 I. In B, first thing we need to do is think about what is the conjugate of this bottom part. This is 7 minus 3i. The conjugate would be the same thing with the other symbol. So 7 plus 3i. And you have to multiply the top and the bottom. So I want you to pause the video and take a moment, double distribute on the top and see if you can simplify, double distribute on the bottom and simplify. Once you think you're done, play the video and we'll finish it together. Did you pause? Are you sure you paused? You need to pause. Okay, picking back up. When we distribute, on the top we get 42 plus 18i minus 14i minus 6i squared. On the bottom, we get 49 plus 21i minus 21i minus 9i squared. And then what I normally do so that I don't have to write a ton of extra work, I go through and find my I squareds. So -6i squared, that's -6 times -1. So that's really a positive 6. Negative 9 times I squared, that's negative 9 times negative 1. So that's really a positive 9. The other thing that you might notice on the bottom, 21i, negative 21i, because the conjugate uses the opposite symbol, it always makes it so that those two middle terms will cancel. So what do we have left? On the top, we've got 42 plus 6, which is 48, and 18i minus 14i, so that would be plus 4i. On the bottom, we have 49 plus 9, which is 58. Now we're in the same boat that we were in over here, on this problem right here. We need to, oh my goodness, hold on. That's never happened to me before, sorry. Okay, we need to split this up into 48 over 58 plus 4 over 58i. And then we need to simplify both of those fractions. So put 48 divided by 58, simplify that fraction in your calculator. That ends up being 24 over 29. 4 divided by 58, that simplifies to 2 over 29, and that last one has the I. Ooh, that's kind of hard to see. Let me rewrite that a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. Plus 2 over 29i. And that is our final answer. Okay, the powers of I. So, plain I equals I. I squared we know is negative 1. Well, I to the third is really I squared times another I. So if I squared is negative 1 and I is I, then I times negative I is, or I times negative 1 is negative I. I to the fourth is I squared times I squared, so negative 1 times negative 1, which would be positive 1. So I to the fifth would be like I to the fourth, which is 1, times another I, so 1 times another I, which is I. You can do it this way by breaking it up and using these as a guide, or here's the shortcut. I want you to take the exponent divided by 4 and see what the remainder is. Remainder meaning like if you do 5 divided by 4, you get 1.25. That's 1 and 0.25, so 1 and 1/4. So look at the decimal. If the decimal, let me change to a black pen so you can see this. If the decimal is 0.25, you are going to have I as your answer. If you do the exponent, 2 divided by 4, and you get a decimal of 0.5, negative 1 is going to be your answer. If you do this exponent, 3 divided by 4, you get 0.75. So if your answer has a 0.75, then your final answer is going to be negative I, and 4 divided by 4 is a whole, so it would be no decimal, no remainder, then your answer is 1. So for each of these, I to the sixth, I want to, off to the side, take 6 divided by 4. 6 divided by 4 is 1.5. Look at the decimal. If the decimal is 0.5, we're going to use the second one. Our answer is going to be negative 1. On I to the eighth, do your exponent divided by 4. We get a whole number with no decimal. That means it's going to be the fourth one. Our answer is 1. So you could, if you wanted to, split this into I squareds and I's and try to figure it out that way. Or you can use this guide. On the test, I will write on the board I, -1, -I, and 1. I will give you this guide. You need to know that a decimal of 0.25 means I, a decimal of 0.5 means the second one, a decimal of 0.75 means the third one, and no decimal means the fourth one. So I'll give you these four just like this. You need to know which one means what. So on number 1, off to the side, I would do 17 divided by 4. 17 divided by 4 gives me 4.25. That ends in 0.25, so my answer is I. On the next one, I to the 10th, do 10 divided by 4, we get 2.5. A decimal that ends in 0.5, our answer is -1. Pause the video, try numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 on your own, and actually I'm going to add number 7. Let's do I to the 87th. Try that one on your own as well. So pause the video, try these problems. When you play the video again, then you can check your answer. Pause the video. How many of you haven't paused the video yet? Pause the video. Okay, so for each of these, I honestly forget where we started. I did 35 divided by 4. Take your exponent divided by 4. 35 divided by 4, I got 8.75. That 0.75 told me that it was -I. Number 5, 20 divided by 4 is 5, no decimal, so that one simplifies to 1. Number 5, 106 divided by 4 is 26.5. The 0.5 tells us that it simplifies to -1. In number 6, 82 divided by 4 is 20.5. The 0.5 tells us that it simplifies to -1. And number 7, the one that we added, 87 divided by 4 is 21.75, and that 0.75 tells us that it simplifies to -I. Here's your assignment for today. Feel free to work together, check each other's answers. Make sure you have this assignment done by Monday so that we can look it over, I can answer any questions, and we can get you ready for your test. Tomorrow we have a test review, and Monday we'll finish reviewing. Tuesday will be your test.